Other than Bru McCoy, who will be Tennessee's comeback player of the year, Caleb Calhoun?
And let's be clear on this, guys. Dave did this on purpose. It just now said other than Bru McCoy because he didn't say that this morning. He wants to force me to make in-game adjustments. Okay,
right.
Thank God I'm not John Chavis. I'd be like lost at this point having to make in-game adjustments. But I would say got a few names. I think I know where you're going, so I'm going to go. You know what? I know where you're going, so you start on this.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm going Dont'e Thornton. I was told that Dont'e had a lot of anxiety last year. He put too much pressure on himself as a transfer. It was a lot. I think we were still dealing with young guys. I know they're getting paid, so we don't have to be as empathetic as we were. But I think he will be, other than Bru McCoy, Tennessee's comeback player of the year. We want to hear from you on the message board as we talk Tennessee's comeback player of the year. So now you got to go. So pressure's on you.
All right. I think I got you beat. A young man by the name of Keenan Pili would be the comeback player of the year. Missed the entire season last year except for a half. And we think has all SEC potential this year. So I'm going to go Keenan Pili. Now, how late does a season-ending injury have to happen for comeback player of the year to count?
I don't understand the question.
Like if you get hurt and because you mentioned Dont'e Thornton. So actually, like if you get hurt in November, can you be comeback player? But I guess you can because Dont'e Thornton was hurt in November. So I'm going to throw another one out at you, Dave. I'm going to throw another one that you threw me a curveball. I'm ready to curveball you. This is a slider. All right, okay. This is a sinker.
Scared.
Javonte Spraggins, who was hurt, who played hurt down the stretch of last year and then finally got knocked out for the year, I think, in late November. I think fully healthy, Javonte Spraggins could be the best guard in the SEC. I see Trey Smith potential with him when he's fully healthy. Am I crazy? Am I on crack?
It's a little crazy. I don't think he's going to be that good, but I think you nailed it as far as the comeback player of the year. Candidates, except for one guy. What about defense?
I said Keenan Pili.
I got another one. Joshua Josephs.
He wasn't really even hurt last year.
I'm just talking comeback player of the year. He got down over James Pierce becoming a superstar.
You sound like you're doing most improved.
No, comeback player of the year. But
Joshua Joseph is not going to see Joshua Joseph is not going to see a larger role this year. He's still going to be the backup to James Pierce.
I thought about you saying that, and then I thought to myself, his numbers actually could be inflated if Tennessee gets up and he's the starter in the second half. I mean,
are we going to count that as comeback player of the year?
Well, I think he is going to flash at least a dozen times where you'll say that's a special player. And as in a backup role, you would have to agree that's pretty good, right?
Yes, that's fair. This is why, by the way, whenever I do
give me a dozen flashes.
Whenever I do like breakout players for a year, I had to learn this 2022 with Heupel's system with all the times he brought the backups in. I've kind of come to the realization that you got to be very careful with backup stats in college football. It's not like the NFL. Pretty much every stat in the NFL is a valuable stat, right? Unless it's like the week 17 and you're resting your starters. You're almost never in a situation where you pull your starters in the NFL, right?
Right.
Yeah. College football, I'm realizing, man, stats get inflated and meaningless really, really fast in that sport.
Yeah. And comeback player of the year, somebody asked about the Dont'e Thornton thing. We had him hyped up so much. And I'm not just talking about you and me. I'm talking about everybody. And then he had the injury and he didn't play well. Listen, there are physical limitations and there are times you put too much pressure on yourself and there are mental limitations. And I think that he put too much on himself. So I'm going to back him for that. They'll back you at Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family in Chattanooga has been serving the community since 1947. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online, qualitytirepros.com. qualitytirepros.com. Stop by and tell them that Dave and Caleb said, hey, Bo. Say hello, Bo, and go to qualitytirepros.com. Caleb, the best candidate for Tennessee's overall success we haven't mentioned. If Andre Keurig is the comeback player of the year and turns out to be an all SEC guard, which would be a major leap, that would change, I think, a lot of people. If you knew that, I think that would change a lot of people in how they predicted Tennessee's season. I mean, it wouldn't me. I think it would affect a game prediction from some people.
This is why we're speaking past each other. I'm realizing when you think comeback player, you do think most improved. When I think comeback player, I think a player who got hurt the previous year and is coming back from injury. Andre Keurig wasn't hurt last year. He just sucked. Okay. So it's, right.
I'm including just being bad. Arian, so if you want to include just hurt,
his skill set was injured last year.
Well, I mean, but there are too many. I can't believe it's a skill set because too many people have offered him a scholarship to play college football. Something's not clicking. I don't know what it is, but physically, I believe that he is able to do that. Arian Carter getting a ton of votes on the message board, and that's
breakout.
That's both. I mean, he got injured last year, so couldn't it be both?
I mean, even if he had been fully healthy, he wasn't going to play much last year. Aaron Beasley had that role. Aaron Beasley and Arian Carter was the Joe Milton to Nico Iamaleava. It was a stopgap year while they both learned the system, and then they were ready to step in and dominate the next year.
I think they would have used Arian Carter a lot more with Pili's injury. I don't know that he would have played Mike, but I think they would have found a way to get him.
They might have moved Beasley back over there. That's true. They might have moved Beasley to Mike and Carter to. Or
that's what I thought they were going to do, and I hadn't been tipped off that Arian was banged up at the time. So, but that's what I thought they were going to do. But listen,
does Josh Heupel? Sorry. I was going to say, does Josh Heupel not realize that sometimes, because of people like me, he hurts his players when he's not open about the fact that they're hurt because he doesn't let us know they're hurt. So I lied into them like I did Dont'e Thornton last year, not knowing the actual situations behind the scenes. And now I look like a terrible person because Dont'e Thornton was battling injury the whole year last year. And I mean, I don't think Josh Heupel does this. I get the whole family culture. Shouldn't you be, just to protect your players, be open about when they're hurt?
I think he could handle those situations better. And I think you have to remember one thing that's very important. And take 15 seconds and learn about Varner Ford, and I'll tell you what that is.
Cab 4x4 STX, $45,985. 24 Ford Escape, $30,962. 24 Ford Maverick XLT, $32,720. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Caleb, he's still a young coach. Of course he's going to learn these things along the way, and of course he's going to handle the media better. That's something you don't do until you're a head coach most of the time at most programs. He's going to handle the media better, but I'll be frank, I think he's in the upper third, not to get sidetracked, of how he handles the media now. I mean, I wish he would say more, but it's smart for him not to.
Yeah, I understand, but I just think it causes really, really, really big issues when he does that.
Well, specifically, it may have put too much pressure on Cooper Mays last year. I know that's kind of what you're referring to, and I agree with that, but I don't know what you're supposed to do in that position sometimes. I'm not a big fan of lying, but there's times where you can't be completely truthful. You just can't, Caleb.
No, I know you can't, but, if people aren't performing.
You would have liked to have known that about Dont'e Thornton. I
would have, because I would have been a lot friendlier to Dont'e Thornton otherwise. Now, you say puts too much pressure on himself. That gives me, okay, this is very triggering for a lot of people, myself included, because I've always defended his legacy. I think the idea that Peyton Manning is not clutch is one of the dumbest narratives in the history of sports, and not borne out by anybody who does any level of research, because he's actually one of the most clutch players. It's the same argument with people in LeBron. People who say LeBron's not clutch don't know data. He's the most clutch player in NBA history, actually. Same with Peyton Manning, the most clutch player in NFL history. However, I do think there were times when Peyton Manning was young. Do you think one of the reasons he struggled in the postseason was he put way too much pressure on himself?
Yes.
At times?
Yes.
To try to make things happen?
Yes.
And you're saying Dont'e Thornton is like that?
Yes, I think that's exactly what he did last year. Now, I'm not saying he'll do it for the rest of his life, but going from Oregon to Tennessee, I'm just going to say it. You, me, the entire media asked too much of that young man. He was a role player at Oregon, and suddenly he's supposed to come in and be Jalen Hyde, who won the Blitnikoff Award. Hey, I'll point the finger back at me on occasion when I was wrong, and I think I put too much on him. I think we all expected too much. He looked fantastic. He looked like a bigger, faster Jalen Hyatt. But in retrospect, it's a heck of a transition to make.
It's funny you say that. You're right, because it's when people talk clutch, it's easy to be clutch when you come in without expectations, right? Because, okay, you can perform in big moments. No one's going to, like when people say Tom Brady was so clutch in those first 3 Super Bowls. Well, yeah, he was a 6th-round draft pick. No one was going to blame him if they lost those Super Bowls, right? No one was going to blame him at all.
Yeah, and let's talk about for a second, Josh Heupel may have hurt him some. Well, the media probably hurt Dont'e Thornton some because the amount of coverage. Can you imagine Dont'e Thornton, who goes from Oregon, which probably has, 3 or 4 beat reporters, Caleb, 5 or 6, maybe. Tennessee, there's just no point in going to some of their press conferences because they have 50 reporters there, so you don't get to ask a question. Can you imagine when he Googled to see the response for when he chose Tennessee and there were like 30 stories? And can you imagine when he ran through the T for the first time? Nothing against Oregon, but there's no comparison to some of the incredible stadiums in the South, including Neyland Stadium. We put too much on him.
We put a lot on him. We absolutely put a lot on him. That is very, very true. But it's no more than we typically put on players, and you may have a point, but there are a lot of players we've seen come from the West and deal with a lot of pressure and embrace it. I'll just give you, who Dont'e Thornton actually reminds me of? Player who came from the West that was a very fast receiver for Tennessee.
I don't.
Similar name, Dante Stallworth. Came from California, Sacramento to be exact. Came to Tennessee. Expectations for him were sky high the minute he stepped foot on campus, weren't they?
Yes.
And now, to be fair, you're right. Stallworth redshirted a year. That 98 season, he redshirted. He was a practice player. But they immediately turned to him as a go-to receiver by his sophomore year at Tennessee.
No, and where is Dont'e Thornton from originally? Can you help me with that real quick?
I thought he was from Georgia, but I'll look that up.
Because when I look at him again, I think we put a lot of pressure on a lot of guys.
He's from Maryland, from Baltimore.
Okay, so he shows up at Tennessee. There's no way he knew what SEC football was like in that very first home game. There's no way.
No, there's not. But again, I just threw at you.
No, and Derek, you say Velus Jones didn't have an issue. There are transfers that aren't going to have issue, and that's what we should hope
Dante Stallworth or a Casey Clausen
from time to time. But to expect it, I think, is a little strong. Caleb, we lost you for a second.
Okay, say what you said again.
Second. I think you hope. There's a difference between hoping for an immediate impact player and expecting an immediate impact player. I think you hope that anybody Tennessee gets in the transfer portal is an impact player, but I don't know that you hang your hat on it day to day.
But I guess where I'm at is like, okay, let's take transfer out of it before I got cut out.
Can I interrupt you for half a second? Like Jackson Moy, he's going to be a fantastic surprise. We're the ones talking about him because we know more than most people, but there's no pressure on him to do anything. And
there's
I think
not. But okay, but what about this? I don't know if I got cut out before I said it, but Casey Clausen's from California. He was thrown in as a starter as a freshman. He was ready for SEC football on the demands. I mean, he was ready immediately.
Again, I think I think everybody's different. I think he is one of the most tough-minded individuals I ever covered. I think his road record speaks to that. He was a road warrior. He was incredible. So
he embraced SEC fans hating him.
He did. And I think everybody's different. I think you're somewhere on that scale of confidence. And perhaps his confidence was a little shaken when he saw how big Tennessee football actually was. And guys, it's absolutely huge compared to football in Maryland or football in Oregon. I don't think there's any question about that. We want
Keenan
you to
Pili is still going to be comeback player of the year. Sorry.
Who is?
Keenan Pili will still be comeback player of the year.
Well, it's going to be Bru, right?
It'll
Right.
it'll be Pili. Bru's going to have to split reps with everybody. Pili is the main starting linebacker. He's not going to split reps with anybody at middle linebacker.